In this video, I'm going to walk you through how you might build your own InDesign template for a magazine or journal article. So on the Spark page from the workshop, I have a link to a form that I created to help you record your measurements and styles. And it looks like this. On the first page here, you're going to measure the page size, the margins, which is the space from the edge of the page up to the text block. You're going to note, and for margins, you'll want to measure the top, bottom, inside, and outside, because sometimes they're different. You're going to want to note how many columns you have and how much space is in between the columns. That is the column gutter. Is it facing pages, yes or no? And that means, is it designed so that the reader will view two pages at once, like a print magazine, or just one page? Then you're going to note what is in the running footer or running header. This diagram shows you where to put all of these measurements into InDesign when you create a new document, but I'm going to show you how to do that in InDesign. This is an area where you can write down all of the styles, and as much as possible, you're going to want to mimic these styles from your publication. You're going to want to figure out what font is used, and you can use Adobe Capture to help you identify that font. You're going to take note of the size and the leading. This diagram shows you what those are. You're going to think about alignment. Is it left aligned, justified, or centered? How are the paragraphs separated? So is the first line indented, or is there space after each paragraph? And then any other details, such as are there drop caps or bold or all caps, any other type treatment that they've used. So you're going to define it for your main text, headings or titles, and then any other styles you see, such as captions, bylines, pull quotes, anything else you want to try to recreate in your template. This screen is a screenshot of the properties panel for the text tool, and it shows you where to put all of these settings once you're in InDesign. This walks you through the rest of the steps, but I'm going to go ahead and run through this in InDesign. So when you start InDesign and click on Create New, you get this box, which helps you set up a new document. First, I'm going to change the units from picas to inches because that makes more sense to me. Then you're going to put the width and height of your document. This is for how many pages, though of course you can always add and delete pages once you're in your document. There's a checkbox for facing pages. You can put number of columns here, your gutter size here, and your margins here, top, bottom, inside, outside. And then I'm going to click Create. So here is my document. You can see this pink line is my margins. These lines are my gutters for my columns. So I'm just going to start creating text frames. So maybe I want a title up here. I'm going to grab my type tool and I'm going to drag out a box for my title right here. Type my title in. I'm going to highlight it, and then over here again, all those formatting options for my text. So I might change the font. I like Mrs. Eves, bold italic. I'm going to change the size to something much larger as it's a title. I might nudge it up a bit. This is leading. I might nudge that down a bit for my title. And then once I have got the title styled the way I like it, I'm going to apply a paragraph style so that I can apply that same style to any other titles I might use within my document. So my paragraph styles are here. If you don't have the panel here, you can go to Window, Styles, Paragraph Styles. So there is a tiny little plus sign down here. That's to create a new style, and I make sure that your text is highlighted because that's where it's going to draw the styles from. It's going to always name the new styles Paragraph Style 1. I'm going to double click on that and name it Title. All right. If I want to adjust the size of this text box, I'm going to go to my selection tool so that I can change the size of my text frame. Next, I'm going to start creating the text boxes for my main text in my columns. So I'm going to go back to my type tool. I'm going to click and drag out a box, and I'm going to go right to my guidelines. And InDesign will help you by snapping to those guidelines. I'm going to go back here. If I have text, I can place it in there. If you don't, you can right click and choose Fill with Placeholder Text. And you can see that that only filled this first text box. And if I start adding more text, it does not automatically flow the text into the next text frame. You have to tell InDesign to do that. So I'm going to do that by grabbing my black arrow, the selection tool. I'm going to click on this text frame and then click on this tiny little box right here. And you can see I've got this chain on my cursor, and I'm going to click over here into this next text box. I'm going to do the same thing with this one. Click here and click over into this text box. And if you have additional pages, you can scroll down and create another text frame here and do the same thing to flow. This is called threading text. You thread text from text frame to text frame. Now if I go back in here with my type tool, I'm going to delete out this text and fill with placeholder text again. And you can see now it's flowed my text all the way through to where I stopped making text boxes over here. Now I can select this text and style it over here. Maybe I want this to be Kaluna regular. Maybe I want to bump the size down a bit. I'm going to justify it here. I'm going to add a first line indent here. So once I have this text looking the way I like, I'm going to repeat the process of making a paragraph style for this. Click the plus sign, double click on paragraph style 1 and rename it main text. And then you're just going to repeat that process for any other text boxes you have, pull quotes, captions, and other things. All right. So my next step is going to be adding some image frames. And maybe I want an image down here in the bottom corner of this page. I'm going to use my black arrow, my selection tool, to move this text frame up a bit and move this one to match to leave space for an image. Then I'm going to grab my frame tool here, click and drag out the frame. So you'll continue creating text boxes and image frames throughout the whole template. My next step is to add my running footers. So for that, I'm going to go to my master page. So if I go to the Pages panel, I'm going to double click on a master. And because I have facing pages turned on, I have a left facing page and a right facing page, because generally you want your running footers or headers to be different on those two pages. So I'm going to create a running footer. I'm just going to grab my type tool again, drag out a box down here, and put in the content I want for my running footer down here. You will most likely want to add a page number, and to do that you're going to go to Type, Insert Special Character, Markers, Current Page Number. And it puts an A in, and that's because I'm on the A master. Now I would style that and make it pretty and look at just the way I want. And then I would make sure to copy and put a matching one on the other side. Then when I go back down to my page 1 of my article, you can see now I have my running footer. So the only other thing you might want to add is lines or boxes or other elements like that. So for that, I might use the line tool. Maybe I want a line to go under my title. I'm just going to click and drag out a line here. Go to my properties panel to style it. I'm just going to do a black line of 4 points. There's a rectangle tool down here if you wanted to add boxes anywhere. My final step is going to be to save this document. So I'm going to go to File, Save. And instead of creating a InDesign document, I'm going to change this to an InDesign template, which makes a .indt document. And I will name it and save it. And then your template is ready for your students to use.